We chose new names and went into the forest. Not because we wished to live deliberately. We had seen the future, and there didn't seem to be much point to deliberation or living, at least as we had done so far. It had been an angry year. To the west, forest fires scorched new maps into the earth. To the east and south, hurricanes threw themselves onto merciless coasts. In between, tornadoes lifted whole homes into the heavens. And all around us floodwaters threatened to turn nations into Noahs without arks. Our widening gyre was a glob of plastic trash floating somewhere in the Pacific, which was warmer than it should be. Animals were becoming confused. Then they were becoming extinct. And nothing was being done about it. Men in expensive suits argued over the science, while their phallic smokestacks pumped more junk into the sky, making many of those men rich. They yearned for possession, but their love was false, or at least conditional. Politicians threatened hostile territories with fire and fury, but it was already here. We were told we weren't seeing what was right before our eyes. Meanwhile, Antarctica could not keep hold of its ice. Come hell or high water, so the saying goes, we got both. We had to become our own sandbags against the rising tide. Picture this. 4 of us in a black hatchback climbing its way through the hills of Tennessee. We'd been driving for 30 hours straight, stopping for bathroom breaks, but not to eat or sleep. None of us could do either of those things anyway. We have barely even spoken, and when we do, never above a whisper. The live wire energy inside us is only enhanced by the CD of Vivaldi concertos that Sister Kitty keeps putting on repeat. Sister Kitty chose her new name when the rest of us were just children. She is behind the wheel and has been since we left Montana. In the front passenger seat sits Cassandra, who was not heard. In the back behind her is India, who is the other kind of Indian. Beside her is Isla, who found herself alone. All 3 of us are under 21 years old and might not get much older, or at least we won't get much older out here, if everything goes according to plan. It's quiet tonight. Sister Kitty has told us not to roll down the windows, but still. It's a quiet we feel as much as here. The moon is a little bent sliver in the sky. The constellations are brutal as the beasts and gods they're named for. The trees, fibrous and black, gather conspiratorially, murmuring with the wind. We haven't passed another car for at least 3 hours. We race our headlights toward the dawn. What are we thinking in these moments? Of our parents, those of us that have them. Our brothers or sisters, if we have those. Our children, actual or hypothetical. Are we fearful? It would be only natural. Are we apprehensive, second-guessing, entertaining sabotage? Or are we steadfast, righteous, maybe even a little excited by the task ahead of us? We are not a monolith. We are all of these things at once. Our heartbeats sound in our ears like speed bumps. We're all dressed in black head to toe, even Sister Kitty, though she won't be coming with us. We had considered concealing ourselves in other ways. Pantyhose, plastic replicas of presidents. India suggested wearing masks with human faces on the backs of our heads, like hunters did in the Sri Lankan jungles to scare off any tigers attacking from behind. But that seemed unnecessary, and besides, no matter what direction they came from, we wanted whoever found us to see our true selves. We wanted to register their surprise. It is 3 o'clock in the morning when we reach the town. Everything in it is crouched low to the ground. Everything except for the church spire, a thin white spindle pinning the sky above in place. We pull into the empty parking lot. Sister Kitty kills the engine. For a moment, none of us moves. We hardly even dare to breathe. The world around us takes no notice. It does not muffle the sound of the opened car doors. It does not shrink around us as we pull our backpacks and flashlights from the trunk. It does not join with Sister Kitty to embrace us one final time. My girls, she says. They may be the last kind words we hear. The trees offer the dirt path to us almost grudgingly. We pick our way through carefully, single file, branches snapping at our feet. Leaf piles shudder and roll over like restless sleepers, our own faces already like ghosts to one another. The forest falls away suddenly, opening up to a meadow. We half expect to see some wildlife. Might even take such a sighting as a good omen, but there is nothing. That we can see, at least. Only the silhouette of the steep ridge we still have left to climb. On the other side, our destination, the Y-12 National Security Complex. Home sweet home to 900,000 pounds of weapons-grade uranium. Now that we've come this far, we move toward it without much thought at all. like sailors desperate for land, cast out in an ever-growing sea. It won't be much longer now. 1 year of work has come to this. And when you ask us, how could you do it? Well, our silence will echo that very same question back to you. That's it.
Whoa, thank you. Hi, I'm Jenna Benge, and I'm the chair of the Kerouac Project of Orlando, and I'm here with Sara Batkie. Thank you for your reading.
Of course.
Would you like to tell us what you've been doing in the house? Obviously, you've been writing.
Sure, yes, writing quite a bit actually. So I came down here with the intent to start a novel project. So that is what I've been focusing on while I'm here. So I had been taking a few notes, did a little bit of structure work before I got here, but I've mostly just been spending time starting a first draft. So I think by the time I leave, I'll have managed to get done maybe 200 pages of writing. It's totally brand new, no editing done yet. So just going straight on through. Also been doing a bit of research as well, just reading books, because I have the time to do so.
Very cool.
Yes.
And what kind of a writing regime have you set for yourself in here?
Yeah, well, for me at least, when I was, living in New York where I was before I came here, I was working a full-time job. So for me at least, writing was sort of a catch-as-catch-can activity. I'd do a couple hours on weeknights if I had the energy, working for, a couple hours on weekends when I had the time. So kind of cobbling together time to get stuff done. I was able to complete some, I have a short story collection that I completed in that manner, but to work on like a novel project that involved this much research and this much time and thought, I really needed sort of that, that chunk of the, 3 months that I've gotten here. So, but I didn't think, at least knowing myself, that I would have the stamina to just be writing all the time. So I sort of was treating it like a full-time job, really. So I'll get up in the morning and, I'll do my exercise or whatever I want to do, have breakfast, but then writing pretty much from 11, and then usually try to wrap up by 5 or 6, and then just have the evenings to unwind, relax, and just kind of do my own thing, watch Netflix or whatever.
Okay.
I think you need to do that. At least I do. I can't. I'll just burn myself out if I'm working on something literally, 24/7. So I wanted to make sure I was giving myself breaks too.
And where did you get the idea from your novel?
Well, I got the idea from an article I read in the New Yorker about 3 or 4 years ago now, I think. So there's a group of, I guess you would call them sort of political protesters. They're peaceful protesters, but what they would do is they've been doing this since about 1980, I think. They've been breaking into various Minuteman facilities throughout the country, other nuclear facilities. They don't do anything aside from painting slogans on the sides of buildings or on bombers. And then they just kind of stand around and wait to get arrested. They don't try and hurt anybody. That's not their point. But they've been able to do this at some pretty high security places. Basically, they've cut the fence, they just sneak onto the grounds, and that's really about it. So I was reading about this, and what struck me, aside from the fact that it's kind of terrifying that these group of people are able to do this over and over again, was the fact that almost all of them were religious. So they were nuns, they were ex-priests, or otherwise involved in the Catholic Church, mostly, sort of connected to the whole Dorothy Day Catholic worker. She was a peaceful protester back during the Second World War. So sort of building off of that work and, doing this as a way to, promote the idea of disarmament, which, the support for that has sort of ebbed and flowed as the political tides have turned. But I think it's probably going to start getting a lot more attention now because of just the situation we're all in. But I think the last big break-in that they did was back in 2012 at this Y12 facility that's mentioned in that opening section I read. So I wanted to write about these people, but a lot of them are older, and me being me, I tend to write a lot about young women, so I've kind of fictionalized who these people are, what they're doing, to tell kind of my own story about them, because I didn't want to write just another piece of reportage or something like that. I wanted to kind of figure out, well, if this generation is living in kind of times that feel very desperate to them in a lot of ways, I think. So if you got angry enough, what would you be willing to do? So I guess I'm sort of trying to answer that question with this project.
Yes, it's a very interesting question.
Yes.
well, we'll have to see what they are willing to do. Obviously, go quite a long way. Sister Kitty there.
Yes.
So, how did you hear about the project and what led you to apply?
Oh, sure. So I think maybe a year or two ago, I was sort of in the market looking for a residency that was maybe a little longer term than a lot of others are. I mean, I've done a couple that were maybe 2 weeks, and that's certainly a good thing. It's nice. You can get a lot of work done that way. But knowing that I wanted to work on this bigger project, I was sort of curious if there were others that lasted a little bit longer. So naturally, I sort of came across the Kerouac Project, and I thought 3 months sounded like a pretty, it's a medium good as far as a long time goes. It's not 6 months or a year somewhere by yourself. It's 3 months, so that seemed like a good amount. And then just by chance, I realized that a friend of mine, Monica Wendell, who I went to NYU with, she's a poet, was a resident here, I want to say 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4?
5
years ago. Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Time flies.
Time flies. So, so I kind of asked her a little bit about her experience, and she was very, very enthusiastic about the project and what she was able to accomplish here. So I figured, hey, I might as well go for it. So I applied, and it worked out.
Fantastic.
Yes.
And in what ways was this experience what you'd expected or what you hadn't expected?
Sure. Well, coming from Brooklyn, New York, it is a transition to be in, Orlando is a larger city, of course, and you have things like Disney World nearby and all of that. But the area the house is in is maybe a little more suburban, a little quieter, certainly, than someplace like Brooklyn. So I was both really excited about the opportunity to live somewhere like that, and also a little nervous about what it actually would mean day to day to be on my own, because I've never had the chance to live alone before, in my adult life. So I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but the house is a very welcoming place, and so is the neighborhood. I found it's there are a lot of kind people here, of course, so that's been very nice, and meeting a lot of people through the project and through literary events in the city, because Orlando is a more literary place than maybe I realized. So that's been definitely nice to have. But yeah, I was worried when I first got here that 3 months is going to be a lot of time to fill. But once I actually started, sitting down and doing the work, I was really amazed at how quickly the time passed. Making good use of it, of course, but really once it got to late April, it really started flying by. I was like, oh my gosh, it's already almost over.
So do you think you'll be able to go back to living with other people, or do you prefer to be alone now? Have we started something that...
Oh, it has spoiled me quite a bit. Yes. It has been very nice to have a whole fridge to myself, be able to make my own coffee, use the kitchen and bathroom whenever I want. And so we'll see. We'll see.
You're going to up your game if you want to be Sarah's roommate now.
Yes.
It's just, she's not just taking anybody.
That's right.
So what did you find to do in Orlando? What kind of things do you like to do?
So I'm very much, I don't know, I guess they call it a culture vulture, right? One of my favorite things to do when I was living in New York was going to a lot of the museums and things like that. So I've been trying to ride the bike because I don't have a car, but ride the bike out to some of the museums that are here. So I went to the art museum, I went to the science museum, and to the smaller, starts with an M, I can't remember what it's called now, but going out to some of the museums and just kind of checking that out, and then going to some reading series that they do around here, Loose Lips. I got to read at that a couple weeks ago, and just sort of, going around, seeing, what's going on in that way, and going to movies when I can and things like that. That's sort of my general MO. So yeah, it's been fun to see what the real Orlando is like, as opposed to having only come down here when I was younger to go to Disney World, and realizing that there's so much more going on.
I mean, would you even know that Disney World was around here?
No, not here, definitely not. No, not
it's
at all.
It's like they're down that end of town. We are up this end of town.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are your plans now? Where are you heading?
Yes, well, in the immediate future, I am going to be taking a little vacation. I'm going to Greece for about 10 days, not long after I leave here. And then I'm going to be relocating. I'm going to be going back to the Midwest, just to be closer to a growing family. So I'm not exactly sure where I'll be in the next couple weeks. That's both very exciting and very scary for me. But my hope is to be in a city like Chicago or Minneapolis or something like that. So we'll see. It's very exciting. It's very up in the air, but I'm okay with that. And hopefully I've got pretty good momentum going on this project too. So I'm not quite finished with it yet, but I'm hoping within the next couple months, after I have settled somewhere, I'll be able to finish the novel, and then we'll see. Hopefully turn it into an actual book sooner or later.
Yes, and when you do, you will be welcome to come back for a book launch on the front porch.
I would love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. You've been a wonderful resident, and we wish you all the best, and please come and see us again.
Of course, absolutely.
Thank you.